First of all, I'd like to say I'm Katie Dominy from ArtsThread, co-founder of ArtsThread with Alex Brownless, who's also on this call. And thank you to Maya and Yelena and everyone at Mixer. We're really enjoying this British Council project, and we're really excited to bring you these presentations today and tomorrow. Just very briefly, we started ArtsThread probably now, about 16, 17 years ago. And my background is in design, and then I moved into editorial and journalism. And we've been running ArtsThread as a platform for students and artists of art and design, as I said, for about 16, 17 years. So I shall introduce you to Alex Brownless, who will then introduce you to Nick, who is our first speaker today.
Thanks, Katie. Yeah, so as Katie very succinctly said, ArtsThread, the actual platform itself launched 16 years ago, but Katie created ArtsThread as a magazine, a physical magazine back in the day. I same as Katie, my background's in design. I've got over 30 years experience in design and manufacture. ArtsThread is something very close to my heart because I was you back in the day. I was young. I was an emerging creative in the late 1980s, about the same time as probably your parents. So enough of me. I want to introduce you to a friend of mine, Nick Chubb, who I actually met when he graduated from Sheffield Hallam University in, well, at least it was over 10 years ago, Nick, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's 15, 16 years ago.
Wow, bloody hell, that's frightening. Okay, it seemed like 10, but anyway, that time goes by when you're having fun, right? Anyway, Nick's gone on to work for one of the world's leading industrial design companies, clients globally, and I'm very excited that Nick said yes to this, because I can't think of a better person to talk about product design, industrial design, and helping creatives, from an employment perspective and from an entrepreneurial perspective. But Nick, you're currently design director of ICD in London, and over to you, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Thanks, Katie. So, as Alex said, so I'm the design director at IDC. So my focus is designing consumer products, consumer electronics, medical devices, but then that also covers digital user experiences, bits of branding and brand language, packaging, and all sorts of stuff, even design research programs. And alongside that, I've also been mentoring people exactly in your position for over 10 years now, and going to share with you some of my thinking in this talk today. I suppose this talk being all about building your creative identity, something that sits at the core of that is your portfolio. And that's a large portion of what we're going to talk about here. And your portfolio, it's like a passport for your career, because in your normal life, a passport is what allows you to go different places, and a portfolio is like a passport for your career. If it's at a certain level, you've got more options, and if it's not, you'll be limited in those options. So getting this portfolio right is really important at the stage you're at in your career. If you just go next slide, Maya. So as it says here, the portfolio is all about positioning and positioning you as a professional. And what we're really talking about here is, to what extent can you influence someone's perception of you and the value you can bring to their business without you being there? And that's the key bit, is without you being there, because you need to be able to communicate while you're not sitting over their shoulder explaining everything. And it's a real skill to be able to distill the messaging and how you position yourself in that portfolio. And the other thing to say is that this skill set of putting your best foot forward and how you represent yourself in your portfolio, this skill of doing this well isn't going anywhere. So you might feel like it's really necessary right now, but even you 20 years from now, if you set up your own business, if you're trying to land your next job, this skill is still going to be very, very important in your careers. And it's important across different scenarios as well. So even though you're emerging right now, whether you're trying to land a job, whether you're going to set up your own business and you're trying to land customers, whether you have developed your own products and you're trying to sell those or pitch those to businesses, or if you go down a freelance route, this portfolio and your positioning through your portfolio is important across any of those scenarios. If you just go next slide, Maya. So you might be able to ask for a raise of hands here, Maya, but just a question really to think about, which is how many have physical portfolios as a first stance?
Do you have physical? One, two.
Okay, and then how many have digital?
Everybody.
Yeah. And so there's something really important to consider here, which is everyone has a digital portfolio, which is really great for that discoverability and for you to be discovered online. And also you might be using that to apply for different jobs. But really we want both hands in the air for both of those, all hands in the air for both of those questions, which is that people still love to see a physical portfolio and physical prototypes and samples and materials, even if those are early mock-ups and convey some of your thinking, because the digital portfolio might land you an interview, but you don't want to turn up to the interview with exactly what the hiring manager already saw when you applied with your digital portfolio. Ideally, they want to see more if they've invited you in face-to-face or even for an online interview. You want to be able to share more, because when you first applied with that digital portfolio, they were perhaps reviewing 200 to 300 portfolios. Now, if they've narrowed that down to 5 people to interview, you've got a bit more time on your hands, so you can share more of the journey. And people do like to see these physical samples and to have a physical portfolio as well as digital. Katie or Alex, anything else to add on that front?
I'd love to add, because I think you're absolutely, it's imperative. I've been involved in recruitment and worked for a big American recruitment agency back in the day, and replacing creative directors and junior designers, and yeah, you absolutely nailed it, Nick. It's so true that the digital aspect is very much leading them to you, the client, the potential employer, but your physical portfolio is paramount. Yeah. And the thought process, your sketches, all that thinking, all that design thinking, all that creative thinking needs to be within that physical portfolio and the starting point in your story. Because I think the thing I would add is that it's evidence, it's proof that it's yours. Because I tell you what, in this current climate, you need that. You need to prove that the work is yours. Yeah. So I would just, that's all I would add to that, mate.
And there's a detail here as well, which is, when we say physical, I don't mean print out your digital portfolio. What I mean is, if I had an interview tomorrow, I would go with a PDF to present to them that would have more than the first portfolio they saw. And in addition to that, I'd probably just turn up with a duffel bag full of prototypes, 3D prints, material samples, early mock-ups, some physical sketches and sketchbooks. So yeah, just to pick up on the detail that when we say physical, we don't just mean print out the digital portfolio.
Oh,
go on, Katie.
Also, I just wanted to add that when you are being interviewed by someone from the design team, you don't forget that they get as excited as you do by this physical side of it, by these 3D mock-ups, by these early sketches. And I think that is what gets them excited and could land you the job, because they just get excited and they will remember those. They will remember what comes out of the duffel bag more than perhaps some sketches. So I think that's it, as Nick said, it's really, really important to consider that as well.
Great. If you go next slide, Maya. Yeah, so the real message here is that the portfolio, it's not about documentation. And what I mean by that is that there's a lot of portfolios. And by the way, I am someone who has to go through 300 portfolios to try and hire someone. And it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of time. So whenever people can reduce the amount of friction or make it easier to go through, it's really, really appreciated as a hiring manager. And a lot of portfolios can sound like a diary with lots and lots of text and basically saying, I did this, then I did this, then I did this. And it's not so much about just telling them what you did, but it's what I'm more interested in is what are the selected elements that actually influenced the design. So if you did some research, I do want to know what you did, whether you interviewed some people or did some observational analysis or competitor product analysis. But what's more interesting is what came out of those activities that influenced the design. And so to pull out these key details that made an influence is more important than just walking someone through what you did. Because if you think about a good designer versus a not very good designer, they could both just tell you all the things they did, but it doesn't mean it was very good. Whereas to pick up on the details of what actually influenced the design and then to go on and see how it influenced the design is where you can separate yourself. So the other thing is that you're not going to land the job all in one go just from sending one link, right? There's always going to be that interview stage. So it's an important detail to remember, because when you realize you don't have to tell every single detail, you will naturally remove a lot of that text, because most portfolios just have way too much big blocks of text. But as soon as you realize that all you're trying to do with the initial portfolio is to create enough intrigue to land an interview, and that's where you can then go into more detail. So it is a balance. There does have to be a certain level of detail in the portfolio. But if you flick through your portfolio tomorrow and there's just large blocks of text on every single page, it might be worth just going through it and being a little more selective about what stories you decide to tell. And also, there are some bits of information that are not going to help you land the interview, because it's the sketches and the original concept generation work, the ideas, the flow of the concept development and seeing the final product. Whereas there are other pages, for instance, kind of just a page that shows what some of the competitor products are. Yeah, it was part of the project, but anyone could put that page together. So you need to be a little more concise than trying to show every single detail. And in that decision of what to keep and what to remove, if it's something that has original work, that is the types of pages that require skill in visualization or sketching or understanding form development, brand language, those are the types of pages that you want to hold on to. If you go next page, Maya. So one thing to consider is the nuance within digital, because a PDF is digital, a website is digital, and having your portfolio on a website like ArtsThread is digital. But some of those, this is where I split it between discoverability and application. And if you apply by using a website, you've had to send just one website URL. So if you apply for 2 jobs on Monday and 1 job on Wednesday with the same URL, there's no way that you are tailoring what you are sending to those different companies. So my advice is have a PDF portfolio which you can tailor and choose to include or choose to remove. And like I said there, whether it's 6 pages or 6 words, you're going to tweak every detail. And then you also have your portfolio on ArtsThread as well as your own website, which is your kind of corner of the internet where you can send people to, where they can discover you. But for the application for a job, personally, I would advise a PDF still, because it allows that tailoring, and it also allows you to control what is the journey, what's the start point. And obviously there's a linear nature to a PDF, which is I go to the next page, then the next page, then the next page. With a website, if I'm the hiring manager, I can click wherever I want, and you're not really in control of my experience. So yeah, something to consider. If you go next page, Maya. So this is a bit of a workshop moment in the session, which is to think about your identity as a creative, and I suppose whether you think about this now or something to take away with afterwards, but to think about a statement about your creative identity. And I suppose a key thing is that when you do apply through your PDF or even on your website, you might have a bit of an overview, or what I would call the splash, which is just an initial introduction to who you are. And one thing to consider with this is that some people can come straight out of the gate and say, I want all of these types of awards, or I want my career to get to this job title. And if I'm a design director and you're someone who's just graduated, I'm hiring you to add value to my business right now. So I want you to be really passionate and really curious about developing your skill sets, your core skill sets in the job that I'm hiring you for. And if I pick up a vibe that all you're obsessed with is to climb a ladder and get to a certain title, it doesn't actually sit that well. I more want you to be excited about the work itself and the craft that you're passionate about. So when you do think about these kind of statements that you might use in a CV or a website, it's a good idea to focus on what's the core skills that you're keen to develop. What skills do you want to grow in? I find that really appealing as a hiring manager, to focus on the craft and the fact that you want to improve in the core skill sets of a job, not just talk about salary, title, and awards. Alex is smiling. Have you got something to add there, Alex?
Oh no, it's just I come across it, or have come across it a lot. You know, you're absolutely 100% correct, right? I mean, some people are obsessed with that, and funny enough, Jane I was talking to yesterday had somebody who she was talking to online in the States, and was thinking way, like, she was miles away from being what she thinks she is. I mean, she's only left Parsons 2 years ago, and she thinks she's going to be the next bloody creative director of Apple or something. And it was interesting. So no, I'm in just total agreement. I'm nodding. Yeah.
Cool. If you go next page, Maya. So there's no denying here that social media is a part of your portfolio. So you can no longer think of your portfolio as this one thing that you have control of that exists in one format. It's, I would argue that your Instagram, your LinkedIn, if you have a TikTok channel and you post projects or work that you're doing while you're at university, you might have your PDFs that you apply with, your own website, your portfolio on ArtsThread. These are all part of a bigger picture of a portfolio. I would actually argue that whatever Alex would say to someone else about me is part of a portfolio. It's all contributing to other people's perception of you as a creative. And I suppose the key message here is that when you are looking to promote yourself with Instagram or TikTok or other social media as part of your portfolio, just be very, very careful that you don't just chase the metrics, because if you just chase the metrics, you'll be posting laughing babies and cute kittens in no time. And you really need to think about, what do you want to be known for? If you did 100 posts on Instagram, what would someone scroll through your feed and think about you as a creative? So that's, particularly at the beginning, obviously we're talking about positioning, and this is one where people drift, because it's very, very easy to chase the metrics. And if you do that, you will be posting cute kittens very, very quickly if you just follow what people were liking. But yeah, I suppose a key question there to ask yourself is, what do I want to be known for? What skills do I want to be known for? What type of work do I want to be known for? And if you're right at the start of your career, just focus on that. You can almost ignore most metrics, and you're better off just focusing, because what's interesting is you might have a website, but a website doesn't have, as obviously as social media, metrics that you see every day about. It's not like there's a like button on your website that people are liking, or different projects on your website. So in a website sense, you don't get obsessed with these metrics. You just post what you think is right. It's a good thing to see social media in a similar way, which is post authentically what you think is right for you as a creative. And you can chase metrics, but only within that zone of what's right for what you want to be known for. So that's, yeah, just to be careful with that.
Just Nick, can I just add something to what you just? People judge, and that, you've got to think about the viewer, and you've got to think strategically, and that I absolutely bang on, Nick, on every level, when it would be Instagram or LinkedIn, but you've got to think about each each tool and how you project, and they're very different, and that's something that we'll be discussing
on the next slide.
Oh, all right, I'll shut up.
So yeah, what we're talking about here is, it's actually the slide after this, but to try and define, if you're going to take pride and you feel like you need some fixed goals around this social media stuff, you can probably hold yourself to account more from what's the frequency of my posting? What are the different types of posts that I'm doing? Am I ticking those off? How many press features or publications have I approached in the last month? These are kind of more logical goals to have, because, yeah, like we said, if you're not careful, you'll drift massively here. So try and focus on what you can control, which is, how many mentors or possible mentors have you reached out to in the last 3 months? How many publications for press features have you reached out to? How many interviews have you landed based on the applications you've had? Reached out to other creatives to do something fun as a collaboration that you could post about, but it might be someone who completely aligns with your creative identity. But all of these are long-term views and very sensible, logical goals, rather than just chasing metrics that don't necessarily help you. So just something to think about. And then if you go next slide, in terms of that sort of platform positioning, I imagine most of you are on Instagram or TikTok already, but who are you really trying to get the attention of, and to create personas of these people? And better still, try and actually meet them, try and get to know them. If you have a publication that you would love to be featured in, try and get a call and discuss, like, what are the ideal requirements that they would get for a feature, and try and learn firsthand what they actually care about to try and get featured, rather than just constantly guessing. And I understand that can be very difficult, but with LinkedIn now, you've almost got everyone at your fingertips, at least to be able to send them a message. And there's a bit of a numbers game to that, I suppose, as well. But yeah, there's a different approach to different platforms. And if you go to the next slide,
Can I just interrupt for a second?
Sure.
Can we just see how many of you have a profile on social media, your creative profile here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And Instagram or TikTok? What is it? Instagram mostly. And LinkedIn?
Me, but I don't post much. Say I don't post.
They only 4, but they don't use it. Or right? Okay, just a little statistics from here.
Yeah, and then that's really good to know. So for me, this is a really good exercise, which is just for everyone to think about, well, what is your primary platform? What's your secondary platform? To also know which platforms might not get much engagement for your particular focus. So for instance, for me on X, just isn't very popular from a product design point of view. Even the people who have the biggest Instagram profiles, the biggest LinkedIn profiles or followings, X is just, there's not much engagement around physical product development on there. So for me, my primary platform is LinkedIn, my secondary platform is Instagram. And the target audience, to be able to define that person, even if it's not necessarily everything is targeted at that particular individual, but to at least know that the majority of your content, that type of person would have changed their perception about you as a creative through the work that you show. So for me, that's new product development directors, technical directors, head of R&D, and design directors of in-house brands developing complex products that have a mix of industrial design, physical and digital user experience, mechanical engineering, and electronics. So any sort of in-house leaders of product development teams developing complex products, that's my target audience, and my primary platform is LinkedIn, secondary platform being Instagram. You should be able to say the same for your area of focus. Go on, Alex. You're on mute, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah, just to say, Nick, I think it's important to address the fact that, we know that the audience isn't, just product design, it's fashion, it's textiles,
Yeah.
it's architecture. I would actually say that you've absolutely nailed the fact that LinkedIn is very much from a professional perspective. It's your CV, it's your resume. It's very important that you get involved in LinkedIn, no matter what background in creativity. I live on it. I know many people within fashion, within architecture, within every sector of creativity has a profile on LinkedIn. I'm on it every hour of unless I'm in bed. So that's how much I'm on it. Instagram is very much more the visual. It's leading people to you visually. That's the way I would see it, is that your LinkedIn is more text and your imagery is more the Instagram, and the likes of your TikTok and things like that. TikTok's fantastic when it comes to projecting, making, and all those factors, which I don't have a TikTok, but I know people within the fashion industry that do, but normally they use it for showcasing what they're making, what they're working on, because it could be live, it could be recorded. So there's all these, but these tools are fantastic and very economical because they're free. So, but it is uncanny that Nick mentioned just LinkedIn and Instagram, because I would say they're the two I'd be homing in on on whether you're an architect, a fashion designer, product designer, graphic designer, you name it. But that's what I just want to add to that, Nick.
And the other thing is with LinkedIn, sorry, if you just go back, don't underestimate how well creative content does on LinkedIn, because it's really interesting. On Instagram, you are one of a million creatives. On LinkedIn, the people that you're likely having to get the attention of are on LinkedIn. But a lot of people don't post creative work on LinkedIn despite it doing very well. And the other thing with LinkedIn is, for every person who's on LinkedIn, it's a very, very small percentage of people who actually publish content. So if you're a creative and you've kind of got the creative confidence to post creative work on LinkedIn, because the vast majority of people on there don't post content, there's a real opportunity that you can get a lot of impressions for your creative work on there as well. But yeah, if you go to, this is the last page basically, just to reiterate this point about thinking about these two different streams and how that informs your strategy of the creative assets that you build, which is to think about discoverability, your website, your ArtsThread profile, and getting your portfolio on there, but then also having these more targeted aspects of a digital PDF portfolio that you apply with, a digital PDF portfolio to take to an interview, and also all of your physical assets as well. And so just to think about these two streams when you're building all of these creative assets. If you go to the next page, that's me wrapped up. I'm happy to take any questions, but thank you very much, Maya, for walking through that, and Alex and Katie's input as well.
Thank you.
My pleasure.